What's going on, family? It's your man, Pastor Gregory Devon. We got AB Bracewell as well. We're here another episode of the Godly View. Soul Brothers. AB,
Hey,
what's going on, man?
hey, I'm doing good, brother. Good to be on with you. Hello to
As
everyone out there
always.
watching.
Yes, sir. I know they probably getting used to seeing us on. They're used to the women who do a great job, but it's another episode of the Soul Brothers, episode number 2. We had a
Mhm.
hot episode last time, man.
Oh
Um,
yeah, man. It was a great,
yeah,
great
man.
conversation. Great conversation.
Exactly,
I'm ready for
exactly.
this one. I'm
You
ready
know
for
it.
this.
You know it. You know it. And it's an interesting topic on today, man. We're talking about, men and our need to sometime heal. But before we get into that, we definitely got to talk about these hot topics, man. Look,
Okay, let's talk about them. Let's talk about
how you feel about your ex-president, man?
them. Ex president. He's. I tell you one thing. He keeps me watching the news.
Listen,
He keeps me
listen.
watching the news. Very entertaining. But other than the entertainment, man, it's just the corruption and the craziness that constantly is in the news about him. Like he
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
stay out the news, can't stay out the papers, can't stay out of social media for
yeah,
some craziness or some level of ignorance. So
yeah.
I I don't even know if I'm surprised anymore. Like I've stopped being surprised years ago.
You
Like
know what?
I'm
You're
just like,
right.
what's next? Like what now? I'm not even surprised anymore.
Yeah,
But when I hear about and the fact that he has done all these things, have all these charges against him, but still is leading um
exactly,
the Republicans as far as the next presidency. Like, how is this even
exactly.
possible? Like,
Right.
how can you have so many things against your name? How can you be so involved with the court system and criminal activity and allegations and still be leading your party?
Still. You know
Like,
what? America is the only country where you can have felony charges and can't get hired at McDonald's, but you can run for president. That's
mhm,
crazy.
and
I
possibly
mean,
win.
right. That's crazy, man. But you know what's even more crazy to me is that, and this is no disrespect to our current president, but even on the Democratic side, man, it's like for us to not have any better choice than Joe Biden. And I'm not saying that he's doing a bad job. I'm saying Joe Biden, 80 some years old, and he does not need to run again
Mhm.
because of his age, because that age is starting to show in terms of his he's looking frail, he's falling a lot. And I'm concerned about his well-being as a man, as a human being. I
Mhm.
don't think that he can make it through 4 more years, but on the Democratic side, we don't have anyone else to put up. And that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So for what is looking like that, I don't know if he's going to run again or not. But
Mm,
I agree with everything you said. Everything you said when he ran last time, he
yeah.
he looked very old and frail
Yeah.
and wasn't always there. So
Yeah.
4 years later, it seems like his situation has gotten worse.
Yeah.
Um, You know, he doesn't always seem like he has all his faculties
No.
in order. And like you say, the tripping and the falling. And you know, anybody could trip or fall, but you know,
Right.
it's starting to become a constant with him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, at that age, you know, you lose strength, you lose balance,
Right.
you lose
Right.
certain capabilities. So I mean, for his age is not abnormal, but
Right.
for his age to be running the country,
Right.
that's the concern. That's the concern. You know, if he was just home playing with the grandkids or something, they're like, oh, he's doing great.
Right.
Yeah, but can he be a leader of the free world? That's a whole nother question. But
Man, it's really alarming and concerning because, for us to be the country that everybody is supposed to model themselves after, and those of us who are Americans don't have the utmost confidence in how things are going, it just goes to show how different of a perspective you can have actually living here versus not living here. I don't think anybody else outside of America would understand just how Americans actually feel about the current state of affairs and the current things that are going on. I think we look at it as, well, they have a great military power, and it's the land of the free, home of the brave, so they say. Um, everybody has a fair chance, so they say. But to actually live over here is a different story that sometimes we don't want to discuss, don't want to talk about. But man, when I look at the state of affairs here in America, I can see why there are those who are moving away and going to other countries. Even down to things like, look at healthcare. I mean, one of the things I did agree with President Biden on when he was running, was about trying to get seniors free Medicare, but they'd even trying to get access to everybody to affordable health care. Started with President Obama, but we can't even come to agreement on those things. Not even on a governmental level, but even on a human being level, on a citizen level. And it's just crazy, man.
Yeah, well,
It's just crazy.
I think we're the country is going to be in this position for a long time
Yeah,
because the special interest groups are so powerful in this country. And
yeah,
unfortunately, they dictate elections, they
yeah,
dictate laws,
yeah,
they dictate who's in office, things of that
yeah.
nature. The lobbyists, those special interest groups, we might think that the president, he might be the figurehead, but
Right.
it's really those people that have the money and have the influence that
Exactly.
that are running the government, because depending on what they stand for or who they
Mhm.
stand with, eh, they usually can influence these politicians.
Yeah,
And so these special interest groups are really the ones that's running the country, or influencing the laws.
yeah,
And once we have those, it's going to be hard to change things like gun laws. It's going to be hard to change things like
yeah,
health care, because if those things change, those that are in power, they're going to lose money.
yep,
They're going to be losing some influence. They're
yep,
going to be losing. There's going to be losing a lot. So
yeah,
and so I always look at that, like who is backing certain politicians, who is supporting these politicians, who these politicians seems to align with, and
yeah,
that usually tells me what's going to get passed and what's not going to get passed.
yeah.
Mm.
And it's almost like, how we do hot topics here. It's almost like, even in government, whatever is the hot topic or the trending issue, that is what's going to sway an election. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, for the past, whew, I want to say, probably by the last 8 years, I think the things that are swaying elections from a local level even to a federal level, man, is the LGBTQ community. And when you think about whatever they want, they get.
Mhm.
When you look at, I don't think we realize how much even brands who like take on. Did you know that Always, that makes feminine products,
Mhm.
has taken the womb off of their branding,
Oh, really?
you know, and yeah, and they've written things like something like all women don't bleed or something like that.
Oh,
You
wow.
know, yeah, it's crazy. And it's like even look at how even now you got President, I mean Vice President Harris
Mhm.
over in South Africa, you know, pushing for same-sex marriage, you know, pushing for, you know, people to be able to identify whatever gender they want. And I get it that people have personal choice at the end of the day. Yeah, I get that. But I'm just not in agreement that someone else's personal choice has to impact my life directly.
Mhm.
That's what I have a problem with. You know, if you want to identify as whatever you identify, that's fine. But when that right infringes uh on me, that's the problem. The same way that, like, as African Americans, right? The rights that we were asking for, you know, for the last 100 years, those would not really impact other people because we're asking to be treated like everybody else.
Mhm.
But when you take about, you know, this the alphabet community, they want to be treated better than everybody else. And I
Mhm.
recognize that's not every single person, you know, but that's so dogmatic in their approach to certain things that it's like, wow, really? You know, I really felt disrespected when they tried to compare that to civil rights. No,
Mhm. Mhm.
no, no, I'm not with it at all.
Yeah. That I mean, that goes to show you what direction our country is going in, and it's been moving in that direction for a long time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
when you to think about like the moral state of where people stand, anything goes these days,
Hmm.
and everybody is afraid to offend someone. So
Right,
you either
right,
keep your mouth shut or you have to support it. And
right,
if you're one that speaks against it, then you're what do they call it, homophobic
right,
or whatever
right.
it may be. So the traditional and standards and morals that we've hold tight to, they've slowly been breaking down and slipping away for decades now, and
Yeah,
we've gotten
yeah,
to this point where almost
yeah.
everything goes. It's like a modern day Sodom and Gomorrah,
Ooh,
and
brother,
and
you
and,
preaching?
and yeah, and the government is backing it full force.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because again, they know that at the end of the day, in my opinion, I don't know if they're classified, so to speak, as a special interest group, but they really are.
Mhm.
Because if you notice, even when President Obama was running the second time, especially, even he had to jump on that boat too to get reelected. You
Mhm.
know, and on some level, while you understand it, you don't agree with it. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? That's why I tell people in the church community, y'all say, you know, well, why don't people of faith get more involved in politics? Because they can't and
Mhm.
keep their moral base. You can't. You have to go and you have to agree with things that go against your Christian belief. You
Mhm.
have to in order to win the election and get in the seat.
Yeah.
And you can't make decisions as a president like you the pastor of the Baptist church. That ain't how it works.
Mhm.
You know, you
Mhm.
might be a wonderful president of the National Baptist Association,
Yeah.
but it won't work as the president of the good US of A.
No, it
You
won't.
know,
No, it won't.
we got to pray for our leaders, yeah, but you know, I don't think that enough of us, man, even really take elections seriously, take being educated about what's going on seriously. We just go on in that booth, closing that curtain, and pulling out that pamphlet that they gave you outside the election booth,
Mhm.
and you just boop boop vote for them, boop boop boop, and then you done, and you have no idea who you voted for, why you voted for them, what they stand for, but yet you want to get upset when something happens in your community, locally or here in America, abroad, that you don't agree with or that directly affects your life.
Yeah.
Like, we don't even realize, man, how these local elections, excuse me, directly impact our lives. And how,
Yeah.
if you notice how at the very end, a lot of time, that's when they put those things for you to vote for. Not so much people, but like,
Yeah, the
this
different.
amendment or
Yeah.
whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, man. After you didn't got tired of going through and bubbling in, now they put at the very end something that they haven't even told you about fully.
Yeah.
You got to vote yes or no a lot of times,
You don't know
and
what it
they will
is.
ease stuff in there that has nothing to do on a surface level with what you're reading in this paragraph.
Yeah.
Like, you remember back, when was it, about 5 years ago, was it, when they had the issue with the bathrooms,
Mm-hmm.
and
Same sex and.
yeah, man.
Mhm.
Do you know that they put that legislation in stuff that had to do with impacting people's social security?
Mm.
That's crazy. So
Yeah.
it's like, on some level, you could not vote against it because they snuck it in there with what's important and affects everybody. And we
Yeah.
don't realize how sneaky, man, politics can be. They will
Yeah.
put stuff somewhere that has nothing to do with one another, but you have to vote for this, so you automatically vote for that also.
Yeah. It's interesting because
Yeah,
especially our community, our Black community, we feel that our voice isn't heard no matter what.
yeah,
So whether you vote or whether you don't vote, and I think that's why a lot of people don't vote. A lot of
yeah,
people don't even pay attention to who's running. Like you were saying, like these local elections are important. Like
yeah,
that's where your judges and your sheriffs and things of that nature are
yeah,
elected. Those are elected officials.
yeah.
So you wonder why you might have somebody that's just sending everyone to jail
Right,
for
right,
minor offenses because
right,
you didn't go and vote for this judge to get out of there. So
right.
but so those local elections though to vote for your representative, things of that nature, like we don't educate ourselves enough on national politics, so we definitely don't on a local level. So
Brother.
that's something I don't know, and I think it's part of that learned helplessness that we
Mhm.
develop as people, that we feel like no matter what, nothing's going to change.
Yeah,
No matter who's in office, it won't
mhm,
matter. My
yeah,
situation is going to stay the same. I'm gonna keep on
mhm,
struggling. I'm gonna keep on having to wake up every morning, go to work. My bill's gonna keep coming. So things like that. But we need to get out that mindset. But it's just that
yeah, yeah.
learned
We do.
helplessness that
Yeah,
stops us from exercising our power in this democracy. So it's sad, but
man, it is. Let me pivot for a minute. So I know we all heard about the tragedy with DC Young Fly's girlfriend, was it last week, and
mhm.
prayers definitely go out to her family, and you never want to see anybody lose their life for any reason at all, whether it be sickness or senseless or anything. Um, but one of the also disturbing things, not simply about that, but the nature of women. I don't know if it's that they're not happy all the time with their body, or if they are trying to appeal to a demographic, an audience, or what have you, for career reasons. Like with her, I know she was in the public eye a lot and on Wild and Out and other shows as well. And I just wonder sometimes, is the need to look like what you think sells, is it overpowering our better judgment? You know what I'm saying? Because that not just her, but there are lots of women who are, going to places where these doctors are not all the time certified, and that's actually, like, what's dangerous, that butt lift is very dangerous. That's a major artery that goes through your glute, that if they hit that, you could bleed out. And
Mhm.
I don't think that people understand how dangerous that procedure really is. Like, if you hit that vein, that artery, right, it could be you could end your life.
Mhm.
And it's like, man, have we really become a country and a culture, I should say, to where we are willing to risk our life just to look a certain way.
Yeah. That, that kind of speaks to our topic that we're going to be talking about, even though we're going to
Yeah,
be talking about men healing, but that kind of speaks to our women needing to heal from certain things. Like
yeah,
body dysmorphic disorder is something real.
hmm,
And I really think that it's something that's more common than we might think. It's
yeah,
more common than we might think, where someone sees these flaws and sees these um, shortcomings in
yeah,
their physical appearance.
yeah,
That's probably really not there, or but
hmm,
because they compare themselves to so many other people,
yeah,
or their self esteem has been beaten up for
yeah,
so long,
hmm,
that they see themselves as less than,
yeah,
not pretty enough, not
hmm,
not curvy enough,
hmm,
not big enough in certain places. And that's a mental health disorder. I believe
yeah,
if you would go to the lengths of having life-threatening surgery,
yeah,
just to fix something that's physical, or something that's strictly vanity,
yeah, man,
um, that's a disorder.
yeah, yeah,
That's a disorder, and it's sad because I know, with this young lady passing away, we've
hmm,
been hearing all the stories about how different celebrities have had to go back and take these things
hmm,
out of their body because of all types of illnesses, things bursting in their body.
yeah,
Um, I don't I don't know how much I don't know if people are really going to take heed to that.
yeah,
I hope they do. I hope they
yeah,
do, but it's happening. It's happening way too often. And
hmm,
then, a lot of people that's doing these surgeries or going to get these surgeries, they're not able to go to the top doctors.
right,
They're flying out in the country somewhere in another country
right,
where where you don't know what's really going on.
yeah,
But they can afford it, so they're going to get it, and it's sad, man. It's sad uh, that we go to this length of to
hmm,
try to appeal to society and their beauty standards. But my prayers definitely goes out to her family,
absolutely,
her children, her I guess boyfriend.
yeah,
It's a sad situation, and I know we were actually earlier this week we was talking about Sarah Jakes, and when she took off her wig, but there's some relation to it. I finally got a chance to see the clip of what
hmm,
happened, so there's some relation to what she did when she took her wig off. I guess stripping herself of all the mask that
hmm,
people wear, the mask that women wear to cover up certain flaws, cover up certain shortcomings and things of that nature.
hmm,
It's some connection to her taking off her wig and this young lady going to get a mommy makeover to
yeah,
cover up what she felt was flaws
yeah, man,
in her body,
yeah,
and it led to her death ultimately.
yeah.
So it's a sad situation.
It is, man. Again, to echo your sentiments, prayers do go out to her family and, anybody who has lost a loved one due to this and or anything else for that matter. But we gotta start adding and talking about the value that all of us have to this world and to God. I
Mm.
think that sometime across the spectrum, man, we have devalued and dehumanized each other so much that it is easy for us to mess up what God created, all because we stop viewing it as enough.
Mm.
I mean, even talking about this thing with men and us healing, the same thing. I think that like myself, you and uh, Dr. Omar and JB and Brian had talked about the other week, men dealing with depression. You know what I'm saying? And how um, our mental health period is something that we have not been allowed until recent years to really explore and really talk about. And I think that, it is always worthwhile for us to examine, like, why has it been so taboo, for men to be able to express themselves, but on the vulnerable end? You know what I'm saying? Like, we know that we can be aggressive, but what about those softer emotions that sometimes need to come out, that end up speaking to the parts of us that do need to be healed? Like, even for you to receive healing, you got to admit that you're hurting. And it's so hard, AB, for us to even say that we're hurting. Like, I had a chance last night. I was speaking for a men's conference last night, and I was speaking with them about, again, how it's so hard for us to even come to an iron sharpens iron moment, because to do that and do it really, we have to admit where we may be dull, where we may be weak or vulnerable or hurting, because this has to be a mutual sharpening here. You know what I'm saying? But that mutual sharpening comes from both of us recognizing the fact that you're a man, I'm a man. Listen, let me share with you an area in my life where I know that I'm really kind of broken in. And then you being vulnerable as well. And then both of us being able to sharpen ourselves with those stories and testimonies, because at the end of the day, the word of God says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. But it is so hard for us to come to the place of testimony, because I've gotten lost in this test, right? I become so battered and bruised that it's like, man, I don't know if it's safe for me to tell anybody this. And that's why we do what? Wait till those lights go off at the end of the night and we cry in the dark, because we are sometimes even afraid to look at the little boy in the mirror, right? And cry in front of ourselves because we don't want to see it. It's like, for us, like the visual of us breaking down goes against the champion that's within us, man. And it's like we sometimes have a problem coming to the table and even answering the question that Jesus asked: do you want to be made whole? You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah. No, I totally agree. I totally agree. And it starts from when we're young.
Yeah, man.
Like this
Yeah.
struggle with learning how to express our emotions,
Hmm.
communicate our feelings. It starts at a very young age,
Yeah.
and it just slowly and it gradually is we're gradually conditioned to hold things in, to suppress our feelings,
Yeah.
suppress our thoughts, um, because, like you said, we are taught that being vulnerable, um, being, I should say, I don't want to use being vulnerable is a sign of weakness. Um,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
we're taught as men,
Hmm.
and I think being that we have been conditioned to hold our emotions in that way, I think we have to find a different way to
Hmm.
have men communicate their emotions, because
Hmm.
we're not going to express our feelings like society or women might want us to express our feelings.
Hmm.
It's not going to come out that way.
Yep.
um, but what I found is that men, first we have to trust
Yes,
uh,
sir.
someone in order to express our feelings. Um,
Hmm.
and it may not always be a verbal expression of
Hmm.
emotions, and it may not be just a sit down and talk. What I've learned that a lot of guys tend to open up when
Hmm.
they're engaged in an activity.
That's right.
We like to do things. We like to hands on, and then a conversation
Hmm.
can open up that way. Then, or we can start to build a relationship with other guys that way,
Hmm.
and then
Yep.
eventually, the guys will start letting things out, start being more transparent, more
Hmm.
open about things that they're hurting with. But I think men and women have been conditioned to
There you go.
communicate and express our feelings and our thoughts so differently.
So
But
different.
now we're being expected to express them like
Yeah,
that
man.
when we haven't been taught the words.
Come on.
We don't have necessarily have the language to express it.
Yep.
So when we don't do it in that way, it seems like we are not doing it at all. Um,
Right.
but but men express their feelings.
Okay.
You just have to know how to read that language.
Yeah.
You have to know how to read that language, and you definitely have to know how to tap in that to that side of a guy.
Yeah.
We're much guarded. We are much guarded when it comes to
Yeah.
that because we're taught. We have these big shoulders because we're supposed to carry the weight.
Hmm.
You know, we so we're not taught to divulge our feelings on each other. We're
Right.
taught to be the person that takes on the weight of others. So it's like you're a pastor. I know people come to you all the time,
Yeah.
but who do you have to turn to? You who you got to turn to, but
Preach to the choir, sir.
yeah, but as a man, we're almost like that. Like the kids, wives, girlfriends, everybody's supposed to come to us
Hmm.
with their issues. We're supposed to solve the problem, but we don't
Hmm.
always have that that group or a man in our lives where we can be vulnerable with. So and that leads to the stress, that leads to the
Yeah.
depression, that leads to all those mental and physical and medical issues that we
Yeah.
deal with as black men.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's funny that when things come to a head and when a man lashes out, we sit there and we wonder why. When it's like, man, were you paying attention all along the line? Did you not see the signs that this man was starting to buckle under the weight of the pressures of this world? And it's like, I think that we talk about uh toxic manhood, right?
Mhm.
But we only talk about the obvious things. We don't talk about the toxic manhood when we actually think that we're doing what we're supposed to do. Like there's some behaviors, man, that we haven't unlearned that men 30, 40, 50 years ago had that they thought this was the measure of manhood. Now we continue to do that now, but nobody says it's toxic, but it is, such as putting everything on a man and expecting this man to be the provider and then some, right? Like you cannot expect everything to rest on this man like that when God never intended that. Even God gave Adam a helper. But we
Mhm.
make men today believe that, man, you need to pay all the bills. You need to make sure that your wife is fully taken care of. She ain't got to lift a finger, do anything. You gotta, you gotta have this type of job, make this amount of money. Don't let anything in the house go awry. Take care of it. It's like, wait a minute, that's a perfect man,
Mhm.
right? We don't give men the grace to be able to say, you know what, I can pay the majority of these bills, but I'm gonna need a little help with some of them. Or I will be a provider, but what I understand providing to be is not what it was 50 years ago. Because honestly and truly speaking, AB, providing is about presence, man. Our presence is needed not just financially. Our presence is needed emotionally, psychologically, physically, spiritually. It's needed everywhere. But we're made to think that the only place of value that we have is our wallet,
Mhm.
right? And that becomes the breaking point for some men that leads them to a place of now needing to be healed because you have devalued the man, dehumanized the man, because now he's lost his job, right? And maybe he's in this pandemic, right? Been out of work for a year and a half. That ain't his fault. If his company closed down, or maybe he worked for himself, and maybe he did have a savings, but the savings depleted, and he cannot function 100% like what he used to be prior to the pandemic. So he can't be the same version of himself. But he still has people telling him what? No, you need to still provide everything. Be this, make sure that the mortgage is paid. Wait a minute. If this man is a married man, where's his helper at? Right? Like partnership is about understanding when the other needs to step up or step back, right? The man that's the leader is always the CEO, right? But even a good CEO delegates, right? It doesn't mean that he's saying that I'm the CEO, I'm the leader, and I'm better than you. No, it just means that he's making the decisions. He is delegating things, but he's also checking in with his wife. But we make men feel like, unless you're doing it all, unless you're taking on everything, unless you are making sure that everything get taken care of and nothing falls, like there is now no room for failure. So if I do fail, I'm gonna have to do what? I'm gonna have to lie. I'm gonna have to lie or do something dishonest to then make some money. This is a controversial point, I know. But you have people who are guilty of doing things that are illegal, but they did those things because they were hurting. And they felt like if I don't do this, I'm not going to be viewed as a man, right? Toxic thinking, absolutely. But I understand where that comes from because you're acting out of a hurtful place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's interesting. What you're saying is so accurate and it's interesting because I'm thinking of it from this perspective. Like, yes, man, we have a lot of pressure on us to do a lot of things, financially, but emotionally, as a protector, we have a lot of pressure. We're on an uphill battle. But I think what the real strain and stress that comes, because I think most men embrace that role or want to fulfill that role, but we don't often get encouraged and pushed and spoken to, and life isn't spoken to you like, yeah, I know you can do it. I know you're a great leader. That support, that encouragement that will lift us up. A lot of the times, like you say, if we fail at something, then I think people often they come with this preconceived notion that we're not going to make it.
Right.
You're not going to make it, or most men aren't good. Most men don't measure up. So it's almost like it's not that I'm encouraging you to be this man or this leader that I know you can be. I'm testing you and just waiting for you to fail because I'm so used to running into disappointment. So I'm just waiting. So if I feel that type of energy that if I feel the energy that I'm just waiting for you to slip up, I'm waiting for a gotcha moment, opposed to listen. I know you can fulfill these shoes. I know you can be the man that God made you to be. That's a lot of strain in itself. It's the same level of the responsibility, but your perception of it is so different. Like on one hand, you're pushing me, you're encouraging me, you're speaking life into me. On the other hand, like as I'm trying to fulfill this role and these responsibilities, as soon as I slip up, you're like, gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha. So that adds a lot of stress, and that's a lot of strain on the guy when he feels like he doesn't have the room to make a mistake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't have and that's that grace he was talking about. Like I don't have the room to make a mistake. I don't have the room to be human. Or else, and once I do slip and make that mistake, I'm like all the other guys that disappointed you. I'm not. I made this. That was an error. That made a mistake. It's not a pattern. It's not inconsistent. But I think a picture have been painted for about men for so long that You know, we're all the same, or we all don't
Right.
measure up. That it's an uphill battle. It's
Yes,
an
sir.
uphill battle, and we're not getting pushed uphill.
Yeah.
We're struggling uphill, and it feel like we're almost getting pulled back down.
Come on now. Get some organ. I hear you, baby.
So I think
But look,
that's stressful. That can be stressful.
what about now when you think about this, like considering what you just said about, feeling like, we can't make a mistake. I think that we as men, like when it comes a struggle, right? I think we automatically view a struggle as a negative, right? When some of that comes from how we've been taught in church. Like we've been taught about the victory, right? We've been taught about the success. We've talked about a lot of the, Moses, Abraham, Samson, all these people in the Bible who um, have done great things, right? But we gloss over it and we go from beginning, we skim the middle, or maybe we give the cliff notes, the cliff notes you just give when you're in college to give you the main points and go to the end, right? When the meat of what was to learn was in the middle, right? The Bible talks about, a thorn was given to me, right? And how God wouldn't remove it. But we preach and teach that thing wrong sometimes because I even heard a preacher say one time that the thorn came from the enemy. No, it didn't. It says a thorn was given because I should boast. God put that thorn there. God gave him that thorn because I don't want you to be arrogant about who you are. So I'm gonna give you something to deal with that you will not be arrogant or boastful. And we don't realize sometimes that the struggle that you hit sometimes is for your benefit, it's for your good. If you never faced a struggle, then you would automatically think, I did this. I reached this success. I achieved this. I got this promotion. I was elected. I. As opposed to giving God thanks for what he's done. The reason that God would not remove it and said, no, but I gave something else. My grace is sufficient, right? Like we don't realize that in the church, we do a good job of talking to men, right, about deliverance and overcoming, but we do not talk to men about how to struggle. Like there's a systematic way to even struggle sometimes. Because truth of the matter is, either you've just come out of a storm, you're in a storm, or you're finna go to the storm, right? And every storm in the Bible where, we talk, you see where Jesus sometimes walked on the water, or when Jesus sometimes spoke to the water, whether he was in the boat with the disciples or on the water walking towards the disciples, right? He always showed them that in the midst of what you're going through, just remain calm and know that whether I'm on your boat or not, I'm still going to show you that I'm with you in some capacity. When he was on the boat, he was asleep with him. Boat rocking, he gets up and then speaks to the storm, right? But it's another story. They were on the boat by themselves. Jesus is walking towards them, and they say, is it a ghost, right? And then Peter says, if it's you, command me to walk towards you. But before that even happened, we don't realize that sometimes Jesus will allow stuff to almost seemingly get out of control before he shows up in our life. Because it says that about the fourth watch of the night, that's when he showed up. That's the darkest point of the night. So it's like we don't realize that sometimes the reason that we have not overcome or succeeded in a certain area, it ain't got dark enough yet. And sometimes it's in the darkness that is supposed to develop you. Look at pictures in the old school. that go in the dark room and develop these things. So something happens in the darkness
Yeah.
that sometimes as men, we are afraid to face, because it's in those dark moments sometimes where maybe we have yet to realize and call it healing that we need. That is where God wants to really do something in our lives. Talk to us, slow us down, and help us to understand that, you know what? I know it's dark. I'm still with you, though. I
Yeah.
know you thought I wasn't going to show up. I'm with you, but I need for you in this moment that when you come out to not be the same.
Yeah.
You came into this thing a little bit arrogant. You came into this place not wanting to call yourself hurt or broken. You came into this thing not wanting to admit you need to be healed. And maybe it's a married man, right? You're pushing your wife away because you had some hurt prior to you meeting her that you didn't talk to her about. Now she does not know how to deal with you in that hurtful place because you need to be healed, right? But see, we don't know how to do like women do. Women will sit around and shoot doobie doop. We don't know how to do that because we haven't been. They say, AB, I need you to be emotionally intelligent, but haven't given you the education to be emotionally intelligent.
Yeah. Let
And
me
then you
let me
can't do it quick.
interject because
Yeah,
you said something that really it generated a thought, and I'm
yeah.
glad you came from what the church teaches and you came from
Mhm.
the spiritual side of things. And what you just said in the psychology world, we'll simply call that a reframe.
That's right.
Just as you was talking about how our challenges, our tests, or there's always a lesson in there somewhere.
Right.
That thorn was put into us by God because
Mhm.
that was something. It was something to learn from there. It was something to overcome. And in the psychology world, we would talk to a man that comes with an issue and say, oh, and reframe the problem for him. And basically,
Mhm.
is the idea is that you have this picture of the problem of this problem in your mind.
Yep.
How can we take this picture and put a different frame around it
Come on, sir.
so that you can have a different perception of
Yep.
what's going on? So you might have, let's say you might have lost your job, you might have got laid
Mhm.
off, you might have ended a relationship, but anything could have happened.
Mhm.
What's the lesson in there? What's good? What's the good you can find
Yeah.
from it? Maybe you lost your job, but now you have the time to go on this entrepreneur uh journey that you've been trying to go into. So let's put a reframe around this. Losing the job is not always
Mhm.
negative.
That's right.
It could be a step towards something else. And
Yep.
if you can change your perception, that you basically are changing your mind and you're
That's right.
changing the way you view a problem. And if you
That's
can
right.
change the way you view a problem, it'll change the way you process it, and
Right.
it'll change the way that you approach it. This problem is no longer tearing me down, but it's came into my life as something that I can learn from or overcome,
Mhm.
or maybe I do this a lot with some of the kids that I work with. I
Mhm.
work with a lot of teens. They
Yeah.
complain about their parents and how much pressure they put on me, and how they're always on my back. Okay, but let's reframe that. Why do
Yeah.
you think? Why do you think that? What do you think they're trying to do? They're trying to teach you a lesson. They're on your
Mhm.
back because they're trying to protect you. They're on your back because out of love. So if you can change the fact that they're on your back just because they
Yeah.
want to irritate you, but look at it. Okay, they're trying to teach me a lesson. They're trying to protect me from things I
Mhm.
don't know. Like you'll receive their instruction a lot
Right.
different. So it's the same thing that you were saying about we meet these adversities in life, but we
Mhm.
don't often look at the lesson or the positive side or what can come out of it. And
Mhm.
so that's something that we often do in the psychology world.
Mhm.
Let's reframe this issue so you don't look at it like the way you're looking at it now, and you can have a different perception.
Yeah, man.
Mhm.
I've said many a time that, as men of all different ages, to your point about, in the psychology realm, all the neurotic anxiety that we face every day, and trying to balance our moral compass with our business compass, with our personal comfort, with our uh, romantic compass, all this. And we don't want to slip in any of these areas. And because we've been taught we can't, we get very anxious, and the anxiety sometimes overwhelms us. And at the end of the day, and this is a point about even your book, man, about our sexual education. Sex sometimes what becomes our avenue of what we view as healing, all because this makes me feel better. Because all of us have been taught at some point in life as men that the only avenue to intimacy is sex. And we know that intimacy, again, is about truth. You know what I'm saying? It's like, as men, we view this man as a dog, or he's just running through women, or all about sex, not really he's trying to self-soothe. But we don't view it as that. Now, if it was a woman, we would, but if it's a man gets no grace at all. At all. His negative behavior is just that. Oh, he's trifling. Or maybe he's hurting. Well, we don't give men the opportunity to talk about where they're hurt. And it's like we easily every day, AB, get up in the morning, right? Put that cape on, Superman. Go out, be pastor, be therapist, be CEO, whoever you need to be, right? S on your chest. Super. That's easy because you have been trained to do this. But we come home, right? And now Superman has a problem now just being Clark Kent. Because Clark Kent, the one that got interpersonal conflict. Clark Kent, the one that got broken. Clark Kent, the one hurting. Superman didn't save the day. But who saves him after he saves everyone else? And it's our Clark Kent, man, that's sometimes so hurt and broken and battered and bruised, and that we do not know how to effectively get ourselves to a point of healing because we can't admit that we're hurt, and sometimes don't want to admit that we're hurt because we would rather avoid this place than to deal with it. I'd rather just avoid it and pretend that it doesn't exist. Whether it's suppression or repression, but most time it's suppression. You know what I'm saying? Like we want to push this thing. No, I'm not dealing with this place because I don't know what it looks like for me to have to sit on someone's couch and talk to someone else doesn't know me, or I don't know what it feels like for me to succumb to these tears, or I don't know what it feels like for me to really admit I'm not okay. I don't know what that looks like or feels like. And it's like we don't want to be taken advantage of because maybe we have seen someone else do it and get taken advantage of, right?
Yeah.
You go to biblical route. Look at Samson. What happened? He was vulnerable, right? It was taken advantage of. Boom. By a woman who had a good method but a bad motive. But have we ever examined this? When men do open up, like when and where we open up, it's not the church and it's not your pastor. It's two people, the bartender and your barber. Those are the people that we open up to. But why? Because we are getting something in return. When you're at that barber shop, that barber, he or she, is giving you a service and listening to you. Not only do I feel better psychologically when I get out from this chair, why do I feel better is the question. I feel better. I got it out, number one, but now I look better. So it's like subconsciously, I got it out, and now I look better. So I've
Yeah.
associated getting it looking better with getting it out,
Yeah.
right? At
And
bar, same thing at the bar, same thing.
yeah.
Serving them drinks, I'm
Yeah.
gonna feel a little bit different when I get up.
Yeah.
Same
And
concept.
and that's that. And that's the issue with a lot of us as guys. Um, we don't have healthy coping skills. We don't have healthy ways to release these things. So I
Yeah,
agree. Yes, the bartender is someone that we can talk to.
yeah,
We go to and talk to, but the way that we're coping with these things is going to get a drink.
yeah,
We got this pain, we got this hurt inside of us,
yeah,
we got
man.
this depression, and we don't go to qualified, equipped people to help
That's
us
right.
with them issues. We're gonna go to the bar and spill this out to the bartender. That's hey, as long as we there tipping, they're gonna keep pouring, and you can talk all you want. But when
Right.
you leave that place, do you have any type of instructions on how to heal
That's
from
right.
the pain?
Right.
Do you have any homework? They had to give you any activities, any suggestions
Right.
on really how to heal? Nah, we have these unhealthy coping skills, and like you were
Yeah.
saying, with the sex, most of the time that's a coping skills.
Hmm.
Not a skill, it's a coping mechanism
There you
that
go.
we use to cover up the pain, to cover up the
Yeah.
hurt, to cover up the sadness, because it's an escape. It's a
Yeah.
temporary escape from the pain.
Yeah.
That sexual euphoria that we get into. So we don't only use sex, we use alcohol, we use drugs, we
Hmm.
use all types of things to have that temporary escape from the hurt and the pain that we're going through. But when it's all done, when that feeling is faded away, we're still dealing with the trouble.
Yeah.
We're still not healed,
Right.
and I mean that's the thing that we need to learn, especially as men, especially as
Mhm.
black men. We have to find some healthy, not
Health.
only coping skills, but some healthy ways to heal.
Yes, sir.
Stop turning to the things that we've always turned to. Go
That's right.
get something to smoke, or go call this
Hmm.
chick up, go get a drink, or let's go ride around. Like that might distract you for a
Right.
moment. And that's all it is. It's a distraction. But
Distraction.
when you get back home, like you said earlier, you still crying in the dark.
Yeah.
So you gotta
Oof.
find some real healing. And the things that we traditionally turn to, it doesn't heal. It doesn't heal.
Yeah. Yeah. And like if any ladies, are watching, and maybe you're in a relationship or a marriage with, a man who is not opening up. I'm gonna say this next thing with tact and but I want you to hear me. You have to make sure that when you're dealing with a man that does not open up, especially, that you give him the same sensitivity that you expect from him in your time of needing him to listen and share. I mean, what I'm sharing to him rather, because if you don't, the worst thing you can do with a man is to hurt him again in his place of vulnerability. You got to give that man the same thing that you would expect in the same situation, and realize that there are some situations where a man can be more sensitive than a woman, because again, this is a place that some of us, not all, some don't have much training on in terms of dealing with this side of who they are. So you don't want to scare them away from opening up. And I always say that when you really want to get something out of a man, it's all in how you touch him. That woman with the issue of blood, she touched Jesus and made something come out of him that he wasn't in control of. Jesus turned around and said, "Who touched me?" And he said, "'Cause something came out of me." That's how you have to touch a man. Like, believe that there is better there. And if you have that kind of faith, you will see a change in that man because you believe that change to be possible. We can be overly critical sometimes of people, especially in their atmosphere of hurt, and it really pushes them in a total different direction. All because, again, we didn't know how to deal with them. And to your point, AB, if you ain't trained in that area, don't don't try to be their therapist. Like if you don't have that skill set, and I don't mean that your mama said that you're good at this. No, I mean, have you been trained to do this? Don't try to deal with certain subjects that you have no idea the door that you're opening. Because when that door opens and that beast comes out, you got to know how to deal with it. And if you don't, then you have pushed that man. Now he's worse because you're trying to do something that you ain't qualified to do. You know what I'm saying? Just there's certain things, even as a pastor, I don't deal with even my members. Now, I did major in psychology, but I'm not a psychologist, nor am I a therapist. Now, yeah, I do know some techniques. Yeah, I do. But in terms of when I know that somebody needs to talk to a therapist, I'm going to, you know what? It'd be a good idea if you talk to a friend of mine who specializes in this area. I know when I've taken someone as far as I should take them. You know what I'm saying? I know that, sometimes I might be the Moses that gets them to the edge of the promised land. But now it's time for me to have the integrity to say, but I'm gonna have to let this person take you in and go further because I've taken you as far as God wants me to take you. And the same thing applies for women. You got to be humble enough to know, you know what? I'm not a man. So let me not try to give him advice about a man because I've never traveled that road. And the same thing works in reverse. I don't want to offend anybody. A man shouldn't do it either towards a woman. But this is a man show right now. So I was saying this line.
Yeah.
But
I think just for this my last thought on this.
Yeah, man.
This healing word that we use so often, it's just become like a hot word to use. But I don't know if people really understand what healing means in the process of healing. Like healing isn't pretty.
Right.
Yeah, like healing is not flashing a selfie. Healing is not even, going to the gym. Like healing hurts.
Right.
Like healing is bloody, is sweaty. You have to face some things that you've been burying for a long time. You're gonna cry, you're gonna run, you're gonna quit and come back. Like healing is not this cute thing that people think I did the work. Did you really do the work? What work did you do? Like healing hurts, and people really need to, I think, really need to get that understanding, because if they realize how much it takes to actually heal from some of the things that we've gone through, you have to go and you got to open up these can of worms again. It's something that you've been running from for years. You haven't even talked about those past traumas, but you think that you're healed.
Right.
You're not healed. You've just been avoiding it.
Yeah.
That's why any little thing going to trigger you. Now, when you get to the point of healing, the things that used to trigger you before is not going to trigger you anymore.
That's right.
You'll be able to talk about this stuff, and you'll even be able to use that testimony to help other people. But I think people just really even us as men. I don't hear us use the word as much, but even us as men, really, when we say we need to heal from something, understand like this is not going to be an easy road. I tell my clients all the time, in the first day of therapy, I was like, we're gonna talk about some stuff and uncover some stuff that's going to hurt. You're gonna want to quit therapy. Because you're not gonna want to talk about this. But if you stick in there and you face it and you work through it, then you're gonna accomplish what you came here for.
That's right.
Yeah, but so I just wanted to like healing. We just look at the happy side of healing. Oh, I'm healed. There's a journey before you get to the end of the road. So you gotta be prepared for that.
And this is my final thoughts, man. Like, and I'm on a piggyback on what you're saying, and I'm gonna add love into the equation, right? We have a understanding about love, right? And we say that love doesn't hurt. That's a lie. Love absolutely hurts because love requires you to break some things that are in you to be able to love you and somebody else because you cannot give what you don't have. And a lot of times it's hard for us to receive the love of God because, again, that sometimes is not pretty in terms of us accepting it. Because to accept the love of God means that I have to now, as a result of that love, break some things in me to prove how much I love God back, right? The love of God is going to break the yokes in me that are causing me to be so heavy in certain areas. The love of God, you look at when the story of Jacob, talks about how God showed up as a theophany in a man form and had to wrestle with Jacob all night long. That was about love, but that was uncomfortable. That was a love from God that does not feel how you think it's supposed to feel because he allowed Jacob to wrestle with him all night. God knew that, I got to break some things in him. He thinks that that he can stand up to me. And God allowed him to stand up to him because the only place that God will allow us to stand toe to toe is in our will because he's given us free will. But ultimately, God does what? He breaks Jacob's hip socket. And then he grabs a hold to God because he realizes, oh man, I can't even stand anymore. This is still God loving him, but you just hurt this man. There's some things in us that God has to break sometime, and we don't realize that unless we allow that thing to be broken, we'll remain in this place of not just not being healed, but we'll remain in this place of not even allowing ourselves to receive love from anybody because we're so stuck in our ways and we don't want to do any better than we're doing right now because we're so arrogant in our maneuvering in this life that it even affects us inside of romantic relationships also. Like I mean, for us to even get to a place of loving a woman how we should love them, that takes for us to break a nature that's in us that's called ego, pride. But I know we'll probably have to continue this conversation another time because we're definitely reaching the point of where we got to end our show. But man,
Yeah, we definitely we want to thank everybody for watching. I should say first,
absolutely.
thank the viewers, and of course, Pastor Greg. We want to thank you for a great conversation as always. Always dropping some
Thank
major
you.
gems. Please, for those that are watching, come back and watch the replay.
Yeah,
Don't only watch the replay, but watch our sisters. They're coming on next
that's
week.
right. That's right.
The Soul Sisters. So make sure you tune in and check out their show as well on the Godly View. Um, as I said, always a great conversation.
Yeah, man.
The brothers will be back in another 2 weeks. Watch our sisters next week. I know they're going to have some great hot topics, some great perspectives, and they're going to be also dropping gems.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
hope you guys have a great night. Check out the replay, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Share the video. I'll holla.